Hi, Henley, at home. We're your friendly faculty and residents, just wanting to touch base with you this week. We hope all is well. I'm Dr. Parther,
Dr. Spearman?
and we just wanted to spend some time just checking in, first making sure that you know that you are thought of and cared for here. And of course, as always, if there's anything that we can do to help advocate for you or help you navigate situations, as I know everyone's jumping into the online learning this week, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. One of the big things for a lot of folks right now is figuring out how to spend more time cooking at home, eating at home, managing, getting all of the supplies you need. And for those of us in New York, sometimes that's been hard because things run out very quickly in the grocery stores. I know a lot of the services that I used to use, they're all booked for like grocery deliveries and stuff like that. And so you have to go in. I wasn't able to get eggs for like 2 weeks. So I'm pleased to share that I was able to get eggs today. I was very excited about that. But so we thought it might be a nice idea to just talk about ways that we have tried to stretch our budgets, save money, and maybe offer you some tips and then tools as you either help out with family, support family, or just are taking care of yourself while being while practicing social distancing and all of that. So a couple of things I like to do is buy as much as I can in bulk. So it's a little bit different for me because I am cooking for a family. And so if you're someone who's cooking for a family, you know that you need a lot, especially if you want to make something stretch. But for all of us, if you want to have leftovers, think about yourself and how much you normally eat and plan on maybe doubling or tripling. A lot of recipes freeze and can be reheated in your oven or on your stove top really well. Some staples for me have been buying larger bags of rice. So like 5-pound bags, 10-pound bags is a great way to save money. Also, if you're someone who eats beans, buying dried beans, I think, are not only more delicious because you get to cook them yourself, but you get more bang for your buck. So beans for me can really go into anything. I add them to casseroles, we like chilies and soups like that. They're very filling. I found that there has been a shortage of meat in the area from time to time. And so that has been something that's helped out a lot. I also grew up on a lot of different types of soups and foods that incorporated beans. So it was pretty much an easy transition for me. Let me see, some quick tips are that when you're cooking beans, make sure that you are rinsing your beans, sorting dried beans, because sometimes like rocks and little pieces can get in there. So you want to make sure that they're clean. You want to soak your beans. This allows them sometimes to double or triple in size, but more importantly, it gets out some of the gases that kind of give us stomach trouble. So I like to soak for a minimum of 4 hours. But really I try to do no more than 8, but I've gone as long as 12 because they can be bad. They can start to sprout and things like that, and then they get stinky, and you don't want to deal with that. Another piece is actually not salting your beans before you start cooking them. And the reason for this is that the salt actually stops the beans from cooking the way that they should. So it should really be it's not even really like a boil as much as it's a bubble for about 45 minutes if you're on the stovetop. If you're in a crock pot or something, it's gonna look different. But you wanna make sure that you're not over boiling because then the skins can get really hard and salt interrupts that process. So save your salt. You can add, other seasonings and things like that to the cooking process, but I always like to save like my big punchy things until the end, because then you're not interrupting the process that lends to the type of texture that you want because if you don't like mushy beans and you end up with a pot of them, then you've just wasted all of that food. Let's see. So the beans and the rice are a big one. For me, also getting pasta in bulk has been really helpful. So the big box stores like Costco and BJ's and even smaller stores like Aldi and things like that, they'll sell like 6 packs of different macaronis, spaghettis, and things like that. And you can cook pasta and put vegetables in there and a sauce or a meat or something, and you've got a meal that lasts a really long time. I'm suggesting also for everyone to have canned vegetables on hand, but if you can get frozen vegetables, you can get fresh vegetables, of course you want to have that. But given this situation, if you want to have vegetables, make sure that you just kind of have that variety, because sometimes we don't know what is going to be in the stores. I think those are my big tips so far. How about you, Dr. Spearman?
Yeah, so I was blessed to have a couple of household appliances. So I have a pressure cooker for the beans.
Mm.
I have a turkey kind of roaster. So what I do is I'll go to the supermarket and buy rotisserie chickens, and
Mm.
it takes no more than like an hour and a half to have it roast, and then cut it up and have like use a pressure cooker for my beans. So have the beans going, have the chicken roasting, and then have a rice cooker for my rice. So then I'll have meals throughout the week. Now, those are starchy carbs. So if you are someone who's trying to lean out or trying to like cut on dirty carbs, and that's not a good idea. But if you love rice and beans and chicken, it's an easy way to have at least 5 meals planned, right? And it's economical based on per ounce cost. Um, I like try to cook all my meals because sometimes we'll buy vegetables, right, and then we don't use them, so they spoil. So then you lost money, right? And so
Mhm.
even if it means like cooking all the meals when you don't want to, at least cook the meal, save it in a container, Tupperware item, right, and then you'll have meals so that you're not wasting dinner. Because then sometimes when you're pressed for time and you come home from work, you come home from working out, it's easy to just go to get McDonald's or go to get rice like Chinese food, right? But if you already have food lined up, you're saving money by not wasting it, and you're saving money by not spending money on food. So it works both ways in that respect. So yeah, I try to like
That helps me manage my portion sizes too. If I already have something, like you said,
yeah,
and it's already pre-portioned, then I'm not gonna come home super hungry and order like all of the things on DoorDash and then feel guilty about it.
definitely, definitely. What also helps me is that when I lived in Texas for 2 years before I moved here, I actually had a garden. And so it was like a community garden. And so because of the weather there, the hardness on you could plant all 4 seasons. So before moving to Texas, I had never thought of eating butternut squash
Mm.
or other hearty vegetables. So now when people are buying up the spinach, the kale, I kind of rely on the vegetables that I grew in Texas. So that means squash, that means um, Swiss chard, right? Turnip bottom. So I have this menu of items that I can use when I'm like, because it's easy to go get what you would normally get, but when you can
Mhm.
find those, then that excuse. Well, I tried, so I'm just going to order out. Well, I have this history of like figuring out how to make butternut squash soup or using turnip bottoms for things like that. So whether it be using vegetables for just a seasoning or just to add some kind of texture to it, try things out. Try different vegetables because then you some of those vegetables are not very starchy, so they're very good for
Mhm.
like vitamin C, right, and other micronutrients. But try things out because sometimes you might like the taste, like the texture of it, right, and it adds some kind of um, flavor or some kind of hint of something to what you're eating. So try different vegetables out and go to YouTube, figure out how to make it, or figure out what it complements, and then you have something to eat when everything else is kind of sold out.
That's a really good point. And also like the experimenting helps because you don't want to get bored with your meals. And so being able to add that little bit of flavor and color can really help to break up the monotony, especially like when we're spending more time alone sometimes, or you're helping out with your family and cooking. It's nice to experiment. So I want to touch on one thing that you said, Dr. Spearman, which was, making sure that you're using all of your vegetables. So one cool hack that I learned is that you can actually regrow green onions. So like I made fried rice the other day. So fix the rice, baked chicken. I used some eggs. I had my like stir fry vegetables in there, and I made a huge amount so it could last for lunches and dinners. And we have green onions. And so when you get to the end of that, if you just stick it in water, they will actually resprout. There's a few vegetables that do that, but it's really cool. And it's essentially hydroponics, I guess. But you don't do anything. Like I would love to garden, but I can't keep plants alive in any way. But this is one easy way where you can get a couple of uses out of your green onions. Another tip is for like root vegetables and things like that, you can save those bottoms and you can actually make vegetable broth, which is really great for your soups and your stews. And it's simply done by, taking your vegetable scraps, sticking them in a baggie. Sometimes I'll keep a bag in the freezer and I'll just add to it, add to it, add to it. And then when I'm ready to make my broth, you're just boiling all of those things down with garlic and like whatever spices you like. And you're skimming off the top because, you'll get that starchy foam. And so you're skimming, 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 and then you drain it in, use like cheesecloth or something, but really anything that has like really fine grained mesh, because you just want to get out all the little like skins or things like that. And you're left with this vegetable broth that you can use immediately, or you can freeze in little ice cube trays and you can just take out what you need. You can use it to cook pasta. It just adds like a lot of flavor and some nice color depending on what you have in your freezer. Things like that are also really good for marinade. So I grew up with kind of a like marinade type seasoning thing where we would take peppers and garlic and spices and you pretty much blend it all up with oil, and you can use it in everything, right? So you can use it as a marinade for chicken, you can use it as a sauce, you use it as a condiment. And so it was something that was always in our refrigerator. And so I try to do that so that it's kind of a go-to flavor that you like. And so you can use your leftover vegetables for those sorts of things as well.
Yeah. Oh, great. And then I think to the point about not finding items, so I like omelets. So, but I found that you can make egg white omelets and you spare the cholesterol, right? And so if you can't find eggs, you can certainly find egg white packages or like egg white separately. So if you can't find eggs and you're not opposed to not having scrambled eggs, right? Then you can make an egg white omelet. So cut up some onions, cut up some green peppers and spinach, and then have an egg white omelet. And then you're saving calories and you still get the benefit of having the egg. Because like obviously, cholesterol is, I'm not sure what the data is, but you're saving having that yolk, right? And so I think trying to find ways to find repurpose items, like you said, right? Can't get the egg white, make the omelet. And some people actually make scrambled egg whites. I'm not there yet, but but try to make an egg white omelet and season to taste.
That's a really good point. I should have looked for it because they have like the cartons and stuff too.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to get those in. I think one of the biggest things we talked about this in a previous video, but time management is so important right now. The more that you can kind of plan out your meals for your budget, and then in many ways just for your mental health, it's going to help a lot. Because if you don't have to worry about what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat, and what you have, like if you have enough ingredients in your pantry, that takes up a lot of time to think about. And so if you have classes and maybe you're working, maybe you have family responsibilities, if you've done that batch cooking, like Dr. Spearman was talking about, then you know what's available to you. And so I can't always do it, but I do make an effort on a Sundays usually to just get out everything, make the plan for what we're eating, and I try to cook as many big things as possible. So that way my meals are prepped, my dinners, my lunches are all set, and we don't have to think about it. Another piece of that is you wouldn't think of this, but plan your snacks because it is so easy to just eat while you're bored and just raid your snack cabinet. And in times like these, especially when we're all just a little bit more mindful of how we're spending our money, one, you don't want to be at home with no access to the things that you like and realize that you just ate them all because you were binging on Netflix when you
Correct.
could have easily just been like planned out. Okay, I have this many meals a day, so this is the amount of granola bars that I have for the week, right? It's simple things like that that we don't always think about, but will really help in the long run. You don't you don't want to run out of emergency chocolate or or something like that when you're in a situation where you can't readily access those types of treats.
I think to the snack point, recognize when you're hungry, when you're greedy. So for me, it's always been hard because I like food, right? But now that I'm not out and about teaching, I'm exhausted. So I think I need something to eat, right?
Mhm,
So now
mhm,
I think I'm starting to find out that my hunger levels are stabilizing or sugar levels, right? And so yesterday I just had my 3 meals and I had an apple and a grapefruit, right? So before I would go out get a smoothie, I would go out and get a wrap or a bar or something, right? So I would have these snacks because I think that I need that because of my energy usage. But now that I'm more stabilized, like the kitchen is right there, I can kind of figure out like, yep, I don't really need all this stuff because for one, my usage, my energy expenditure is not as what it once was. And so
mhm,
it's like this is not home. This is just boredom or the fact I just need water. So sometimes water will cure it. You don't really need as much sugar as you did because now you're probably just sedentary. And so recognize when you're greedy, when you're hungry, because you realize, wow, I don't need all this stuff.
mhm, mhm. And using your calories wisely, like protein is going to fill you up a lot more than a simple carbohydrate. And so I know for me, I actually have a physical response to like eating too much pasta. So if I have a bowl of pasta or something, I'm taking a nap, right? And then in 2 hours, I'm going to be hungry again. So I have to be really mindful. Like sometimes you want to have the pasta and the rice because like one, it can make a meal stretch. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, it tastes good, it's economical, but you also want to make sure that you are balancing those nutrients because you'll actually end up eating more, raiding your pantry more if you're eating things that you your body takes like will digest very easily or doesn't have enough protein to keep you satiated. And then you'll find that you're reaching for things because your blood sugar is all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think those are the biggest tips that I have. I would just encourage you. It's hard right now because we're in this space where we're trying to get things in the grocery stores as fast as we can. I've always kind of been raised to make sure that I'm still mindful of those prices and everything like that. And we really do need to be because we don't know how long our situation is going to be like this. And while we're very blessed to have areas where there's a lot of plentiful food, you just want to be mindful. So a couple of like parting tips is if you're going out for that grocery store trip or if you're doing delivery to just still be mindful of prices and things like that because you work for your money and you still want to make sure that you're getting the best deals that you can. A lot of times your local smaller chains are going to have really good deals on produce. I love our local um, international markets, and you're not only supporting the local businesses because they need to stay afloat, but you're also getting what I feel is really fresh produce at really quality prices. And a lot of times they're more well stocked because folks like to go to kind of the big box stores where their prices are going to be a little bit higher. So I've tried to definitely do that. Um, don't Still be mindful, even if there are things on your list that you're not able to grab, that you're not just picking up, absentmindedly the one thing that is there. I've been reading, I spend a lot of time on the internet now, right? And you read these stories where people are just making these impulse purchases of like so many boxes of cereal when they don't eat them, or like cases of Snapple and stuff like that. Kind of resist those urges, get the things that you need, but also, be mindful that you're putting all of this stuff into your body, and you need to have a lot of energy and a lot of focus to deal with the emotions of all of this, but also just to stay healthy because we are moving less. Um, we're spending more time in front of the screens, and so you need things that are going to help to support that focus. If you can focus on foods that can keep you fuller longer, think about your fiber, think about your protein, um, think about how many fats you're having, but also like this isn't the time to deprive yourself. And so if that treat is going to make you feel better, like recognize like what you're using it for, but food is the fuel to your car, right? And so every time you look at a gas station, like you're looking at those prices for what you need, and you've got to make a decision. That's kind of the same way with shopping right now.
Definitely. Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. Yeah, just be mindful. Not because you just think about like, am I really hungry, or like, is this price gouging, or is this a fair market price? So
Because we've all got to balance these budgets. Even though it feels like we are in a crazy time. So again, if you have any questions or comments, or just want to share some of your tips and tricks, feel free to put them in the comment section. But we are signing off and letting you know that we hope you have a great day. Until next time, take care.
thank you. Yep.